Public Doc released Shatters Newscum's entire narrative on Pacific Palisades fire. They said, let it burn. Isn't that what I've been saying from the beginning? They wanted this to happen so they can build more public housing, get rid of private housing. It's par for the course for the progressive socialist Marxist agenda out there in California. This is what they want. And so we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna play the clip and with the proof from the docs. But before we get started, go ahead and hit that like button, share this out so we can get this information out there. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and hit that alarm bell so you know when I'm putting out new stuff. Also, check out my link tree in the description. There you'll find a link to my Patreon. That's where I talk about things that I can't talk about here. I just put a new one up yesterday, so check that out. Also, follow me on X and Instagram as well. All right, let's get right to the clip here. Here we go.
Part of the Palisades fire, those orders to...
Oops, hold on a second. Sorry, let me rewind it here. I watched a little bit of it already. Here we go.
Orders to let it burn inside a California.
Oh, why is it not rewinding? Sorry about that. There we go. There we go. All right, let's try this again. Here we go.
News Nation has been digging into the origins of the devastating Palisades fire that scorched more than 23,000 acres in California back in January. A closer look at state documents obtained through a public records request, raising more questions about the state's role in responding to the blaze. The state's wildfire mitigation plan outlining an approach to land management that may have inadvertently led to that third most destructive wildfire in California state history.
Just like Usher, they said, let it burn. Let it burn. That's what they want.
News Nation's Rich McHugh has an exclusive look at what those documents are telling us about the origins of that fire. Rich, good afternoon.
Hi, Nick. So they say, let it burn. Now, while California has continually said they denied responsibility for any part of the Palisades fire, those orders to let it burn inside a California state park's wildfire mitigation plan raise serious new questions about the origin of the fire and California's involvement in it. Now, I want to reset for our viewers. After an alleged arsonist started the initial fire known as the Lockman Fire, firefighters fought the fire, declared it contained, and pulled up their hoses. But 6 days later, the fire rekindled into the Palisades fire, killing 12 and taking 7,000 structures. The key question, why wasn't it fully extinguished in the first place? After the initial fire, hikers walking around the state park where the fire burned shot video of embers smoldering. On the day after the fire, and then again 2 days after the fire, a different hiker shot this video. We know California State Park reps were on scene directing firefighters with maps. Again, why? Well, according to a California State Parks management plan from Topanga State Park, obtained through public records request, it states, quote, to restore the natural fire frequency in chaparral habitats, unless specified otherwise, State Parks prefers to let Topanga State Park burn in a wildfire event.
Wow.
We saw.
Wow. 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 Absolute proof that they wanted to allow this to burn. They didn't want to put out the fires. They knew ahead of time that it was rekindling, and they did absolutely nothing about it. They let it burn. Like I said, like Usher. It's disgusting, man. Who in their right mind would want to live in California after learning something like this? These officials here in California have ruined California. They do not have the people's best interests at heart here. Someone should be held accountable for this.
The state's philosophy in black and white. In the event of a wildfire, let it burn. That came as a shock to us. The thought of letting something burn, especially a wildfire, to us just seems upside down.
No joke. This is why we call him Newscum, not Newsom. We call him Newscum because he's a scumbag. This is his policies. He abided by these policies. Even if he didn't agree with them, he abided by it, and they let it burn. They let the Palisades burn on purpose so they can build it back in their image. This is disgusting.
The priority ought to be extinguish the wildfire and any remnants of it.
Of course, and that is common sense. Throughout history, people put out fires to protect property and to protect people's lives throughout history, except for in California. Except for in California.
Then you can go in and look to see what impact it's had on the plant life in the state park.
The plan specifically calls out avoidance areas with native plant species and avoidance maps of the park, which restrict firefighters battling a blaze.
That's crazy.
We had received reports from the firefighters that were there fighting the Lockman fire on January 1 that a state park representative came up to them during their firefight and showed them a map and said, you cannot go into these areas because there's protected plant species and you can't use heavy equipment like bulldozers in these areas.
That's
in
crazy.
that wildfire mitigation plan, we see that there are areas referred to as avoidance areas where state parks says heavy equipment should not be used.
Think about this. This is cover though. I don't really believe they care anything about plants, but this is the cover story. You can't go put out these fires to save people's homes, to save people's lives, because plants are more important than property, and plants are more important than human lives. This is what the state is saying, right? But we all know this is just cover. This is so they can let it burn, so they can again build up these public housing. That's what this is really about. They don't care anything about. You think the state care anything about freaking plants? Are you for real? Are you that naive?
Mopping up activities cannot occur in these areas unless you have, for example, an archaeologist on site, which is consistent with what the firefighters told us about January 1.
We asked California state parks if state parks representatives restricted firefighters from certain areas and using a bulldozer to cut a line around the fire. They write in response, state parks never hinders an active firefighting response, and firefighting decisions are up to the responding agency.
Yeah,
now,
right.
Governor Newsom's office has repeatedly said they were not responsible for responding to or monitoring this fire, but attorneys for the victims here say not true. And the proof is in this document and in the footage of the state parks reps on scene there responding and monitoring this fire.
It doesn't matter they got documents that said let it burn. It doesn't matter that they got film of them letting it burn. Who you gonna believe, the state or your lying ass eyes?
Nick?
Rich, thank you so much.
Wow. This is crazy news. Hopefully Newsom or Newscum will be held accountable for it. I doubt it. As much as this man destroyed California, he has the audacity to be running for president in 2028. It's just crazy to me. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this. Leave y'all comments down below. Like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to check out jjthepsychotherapist.com for the latest in news. Until next time, peace.